So ever since the 2020 election, MAGA has done nothing but cry that elections are rigged against them, and no amount of logic or truth or evidence that we brought to show them otherwise would make them see anything different. They said and preached for years that the system was rigged and that all elections was rigged against them. And it never made sense to me because I said to myself, if Democrats were strong enough to rig an election for Joe Biden, then they definitely wouldn't let Marjorie Taylor Greene get through the door either. But no amount of logic we've ever been able to speak on this subject has ever resonated with MAGA. But what's so funny to me is the minute Donald Trump won, suddenly they had all the faith in the world in elections again. Suddenly they were right back to, oh, the will of the people have spoken. And they absolutely believed it. Never questioned it, and nothing we could ever say if we questioned one shred of any of it. They would never buy into that. They could never entertain the idea that it could have been the other way. So as we go forward, if you think that MAGA has left behind the election rigging ideas, no, they've not. It's just on pause right now for the most part in the presidential ones anyway. Right now, Trump's back, so they feel good about it. But this story here is happening in North Carolina where they're trying to overturn an election that they feel was fraudulent and they feel was fake. And so here we go again. They're not going to give up this shtick. It's going to be something they use. They're going to pull this feather out of their cap whenever they get the chance because they're never going to be able to accept defeat. And after this election, I don't know if they'll ever accept it again because they feel 2020 was taken from them. They feel they won this one in a landslide. So I can't imagine what will happen if I think their system will go into shock if they ever lose on any platform ever again. But we're going to read this article here from Midas News. Dems blast rock bottom move by the RNC to throw out 60,000 votes in North Carolina. Justice Allison Riggs' victory was confirmed by 2 recounts, but her opponent is suing to disqualify tens of thousands of votes. I mean, we should not be shocked at all by this. Despite losing by only 734 votes, North Carolina Republican Supreme Court candidate Jefferson Griffin and the RNC have sued to throw out over 60,000 votes in North Carolina due to alleged missing information on voter registration forms, an egregious assault on the Voting Rights Act to North Carolinians, according to the DNC chair Jamie Harrison, who claims Griffin and the GOP targeted minority and women voters for disqualification. And again, who's really shocked by any of this? In a rock-bottom maneuver to circumvent the will of the North Carolina voters, Republicans are doing what they do best, trying to change the effects of the election altogether, Harrison said on a call with reporters this week. Now, Griffin is contesting the defeat to incumbent Democratic Justice Allison Riggs, which confirmed by 2 separate recounts. So think about that. They've recounted twice. It's been confirmed, but they're still fighting it. If Griffin is successful in his effort to overturn the results, the court will shift from 5-2 to 6-1. Think about that. From 5-2 to 6-1 in favor of Republicans. Last week, Republicans tried to delete tens of thousands of votes, again, tens of thousands of votes from all North Carolina state elections, including elections that were completely undisputed until now, in a desperate attempt to erase the fact that they lost, Harrison continued. Certification of Riggs' victory remains stalled due to an order from the Republican state Supreme Court, which has asked to intervene in the election to one of its own seats. Riggs recused herself from the 4-2 vote, with all but one Republican on the court voting to delay certification. The court set a deadline for all briefs in the case to be filed by January 24th. Now here's Roy Cooper. Allison Riggs won, and the recount confirmed it. Republicans want to toss thousands of legal votes in the trash because they don't like the outcome. This shouldn't be about party politics. This should be about making sure that every vote counts and that our elections still mean something. So the Democratic National Committee asked the court to intervene in a brief filed last week, citing a Republican attempt to mass voter suppression that sought to delete the votes of tens of thousands of voters in every state and municipal election, not because those voters were ineligible or did anything wrong, but because of an alleged record-keeping problem. If Republicans are successful in invalidating fair legal votes past the election date like this, they will have broad implications across the country, former Democratic Governor Roy Cooper said on his call with Harrison. If they're successful with this, he says, this is what will happen. Voters in North Carolina will be unable to walk out of a voting booth ever again and feel confident that their vote counted. Honestly, I don't know if I'll ever feel confident again, to tell you the truth. We need to respect the voters' will in this election, said North Carolina Democratic Chair Anderson Clayton. This time it's 60,000 ballots. Next time it'll be 100,000 ballots. Then it'll be 250,000 ballots until no votes gets counted. What's the point of voting if Republicans in North Carolina are allowed to do this? This playbook is not new to our state, but it's one that Republicans will take and make a national playbook if they are able to succeed here. And that's the exact point. They want this to be the national playbook. This is how they want things to be. They pretty much want to be Vince McMahon and the WWE. They want to decide the winners ahead of time, and they want to always book themselves to go over. That's exactly where we're at. And that's not the way it was supposed to be in this country. We were supposed to be a democratic nation. We were supposed to have a democracy, and every vote was supposed to count, and everyone was supposed to feel confident when they went in to vote that their vote was being counted. But unfortunately, we're never going to be there again, I don't think, in my lifetime. And that's not me trying to be doom and gloom or hyperbolic. But my question to you would be, how many of you really do feel confident in any of this? I've had people say, well, we just got to keep, putting in the work. And I've said it too. We do have to keep putting in the work. But I've had people say, well, we just got to get to the midterms. And I'm like, okay, well, let's say that we make it to the midterms and there's this gigantic blue wave. Will MAGA accept that? Will Donald Trump sitting in the Oval Office accept that? Or will they pull out playbooks like this and start trying to push this through? And they've absolutely done such a good job of brainwashing everyone on their side to believe that everything's rigged against them, that how would we ever have a strong victory? What you got to understand, we did have one in 2020. We had a victory. We never got to celebrate it. We never got to enjoy it. From the time that Joe Biden was elected through January 6th and all the way up till he laid his hand on the Bible, what I was saying to my family and friends and anyone that would listen, when they would say, well, Brando, what do you think? What do you think's going to happen? I'm like, I ain't saying a word till he lays his hand on the Bible and, takes the oath, and then I see him in the White House, and I'm not going to trust this. We never had a chance to enjoy that victory. And we really didn't have a chance to enjoy Joe Biden's presidency because he was an effective president. He did get a whole lot of things done that were good for this country, but Donald Trump campaigned and took the attention off of it the entire time. And Joe Biden, while I love Joe Biden, I think he was a very effective president. Joe Biden is not the type of guy to get in the mud and sling mud with anybody. That's not who he is. And you can take this as a criticism if you want to, but the way I look at it, he's a guy who is trying to fight by the Marquess of Queensberry rules in an absolute street fight where anything goes and weapons are allowed. That's how it comes off to me. And so he's over here focusing. And by the way, he himself said that he felt that it was a mistake that he didn't get out there and that people didn't get out there and drive home their accomplishments more. He said, I was more worried about policy than playing politics. And I respect and appreciate the living hell out of that. I truly appreciate it for what that's how it should be. We should have a president that's focused on policy and not out here trying to have theater. But unfortunately, where we're at now, it's all political theater. So if you've got somebody over here just playing by every rule in the book, going up against someone that isn't playing by the rules, how can you win that one? That's just a serious question. How can you pull it off? Go back and watch the fight between Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield where Tyson bit his ear. And pay close attention to what happens after the ear bite. The first ear bite, they took away some points, I think, and gave him a warning. And the second ear bite, Evander Holyfield turned and ran. And I'm not saying, I don't blame him for it, but if you'll notice, he literally turned and ran, and people ran into the ring because at that point it stopped being a fight. It stopped being a boxing match. There was no rules at that point. They had went completely out the window. Now it was a street fight. Now it was chaos. And if Holyfield had stood there and tried to, stick and move and duck and dodge and establish the jab, that wasn't the place to do it. So as long as, we do need to focus on policy and we do need to work hard on policy. But if that's all we focus on and we don't get over here and get in the mud with them, they're always going to one-up us in the political theater, and then when a moment like this happens and they try to steal another election, they'll be able to because everybody will believe in what they're saying. And that's truly a scary place for us to be. And again, it's not me trying to be hyperbolic. I'm just trying to raise awareness. I truly am. And we're in for one hell of a rocky ride. We really are. There's so much uncertainty. I've talked to so many of my friends, so many people I admire, love, and respect. We all have a difference of opinion on it. We all have different ideas of the ways that it could and couldn't go. But the truth is, none of us has the answer. I hate to say it that way and be that blunt, but we're all at this point just speculating and trying to make sense of it and trying to educate ourselves on everything that is happening. But anyone out there that tells you they know all the answers as to how we lost and how we go forward, no one knows the answer. We're going to have to put in a lot of work to figure out all the answers. And what they have done with this political theater and this convincing people that the game is rigged, it's went a long way in their favor. Because you let a blue wave come through with a setting Donald Trump in there, is he going to accept it in 2026 if that's what happens? Or are we going to see more bullshit like we're seeing right now in North Carolina? And that story is kind of going under the radar. That's why I wanted to bring it up. But I truly do appreciate all of you for supporting me here on the channel, and a special shout out to the Midas Touch Network. It's great to work alongside them every day, and it's great to sit here every day. As stressful and as heavy as these subjects can get, I wouldn't want to be doing anything else. I spent over 20 years of my life playing dive bars in my part of the world to people who was talking so loud I couldn't hear myself think. And so now the fact that I have people on a daily basis tuned in and caring about what it is I have to say, and I'm not having to work the audience or try to, appease the crowd. I say what I feel, I say what I mean and what I believe. And to tell you the truth, I don't get too deep in the weeds in the comment section and read through it, because I don't want my channel to turn into me arguing with people in the comment section. I say what I say with confidence. If you want to continue to subscribe to the channel, I truly appreciate you. If at any point you decide to get off the ride, that's cool too. There's people that I loved and respected that I unsubscribed to. But what I would want people to understand is when you come to my channel, you're going to get the truth about how I feel about things. You're going to get my take on things, and you may not always agree with it. And if there comes a point where you go, well, that's a bridge too far for me, Brando, I respect that, and you're free to leave. We're not in a cult over here. You're free to disagree with me. I welcome your disagreements. It's okay. But we do have a long, hard road ahead of us, so everybody buckle up. And, my dad used to say today's going to be the day that we separate the men from the boys years ago. And I think there's a lot, that statement goes a lot deeper than people may realize, but this is it. This is where we see who's really got it and who don't. And so let's just keep putting the work in and we'll get there.